Everyone, I'd like to call this Hammond Redevelopment Commission meeting to order on this Tuesday, January 21st. It is now 4:30. The meeting will begin. Can you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Can we have a roll call on the commissioners tonight?
Myrick?
Oh, here.
Soto Presley?
Here.
Castricki?
Here.
Myrick?
Here.
Poppridge?
Here. For the record, all five are present. Number 3 is a declaration of conflict of interest. Number 4, communications.
None were received.
Moving along, that brings us to number 5, our minutes dating December 3rd, 2019 and December 17th, 2019.
Mr. President, I make a motion to accept the minutes for the Redevelopment Commission meetings for December 3rd, 2019 and December 17th, 2019.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for our minutes dating December 3rd, 2019. And the other minutes dating December 17th, 2019. Roll call then, please.
Myrick?
Yes.
Soto Presley?
Yes.
Castricki?
Yes.
Myrick?
Yes.
Poppridge?
Yes. Motion passes 5 yes. Okay, number 6 is a determination of compliance with Downtown Hammond Urban Renewal District Number 1 for 472 and 475 Fayette Street for the 1933 Garage LLC.
Mr. Parenteau, if you'd like to come before the commission.
Hi, my name is TJ Ferrantella, and I represent the 1933 Garage. By way of introduction, I'm not new to Hammond. I've been a Hammond business owner for more than 30 years. My companies, the engineered companies, did heavy civil and railroad construction primarily for industry, but some of the other projects that we did were the final phase of Lost Marsh, as I say, the phase that was not problem-ridden, did not have union problems, did not have budget overruns, the Hammond Bird Sanctuary. All of the casino foundations were constructed by my firm as well. In 2015, I decided to cease operations and retired from construction. While we were located in 2 different locations, one the corner of Michigan and Calumet, which is now Tri-Robotics, and the building that we currently are talking about, which is 472 and 475 Fayette, that was previously Firestone's Truck Tire Center. When we purchased it through the engineered companies, it was a mess. We abated the asbestos, we made it structurally sound, we put it back into shape. And when you take a look at the pictures that show up in the enclosures, on page 6 of 12, you can see kind of a mean-looking building, and on page 7 of 12, you can see what it looks like today. That gives you an idea of what I imagine just as a first phase for this. And on the next 2 pages, you also see before and afters. My perspective, well, it's varied. I get annoyed and irritated when I hear people bash Hammond. I think it is a good place. It will never be the retail hub that it once was, but nothing will ever be the retail hub that it once was because retail's been pretty much decimated by the internet. I believe uses like I'm proposing for this building are really kind of fascinating and bring a level of interest to the neighborhood. I think it's compatible with 18th Street Brewery. I think it's compatible with Sour Note. The concept is to turn it into a vintage car service center. If it's approved, we will begin with a mechanic shop immediately. Actually, looking at the building, this recessed portion would become a mechanic shop immediately. And then depending on what the vintage car community wants and desires, the other portion of the building will be developed for for others, for tenants. What I'm thinking is there will be an upholsterer, there will be a vintage car consignment company. It's got a really nice feature across the street. It has a half-acre vacant lot. I'm not 100% certain how we will use that. It's likely to be used for parking, but in my mind, I envision special events, more like ad hoc car shows where people can come in, just hang out in the neighborhood. I particularly like the idea of a Thursday night because I love what Dave does at the former Mueller's Hardware and with open mic night. To me, it's a walking neighborhood. When we owned this building, I still own the building, but when our company was active, our office was in the mezzanine level of the Calumet National Bank building, and we would walk back and forth. So I've got some good experience in the neighborhood. I think it is one of the safest locations that anybody could ever hope for. It's within line of sight of the Hammond Police Department, and in my mind, the Hammond Police are rock stars. That's just my background. Are there any particular questions that I can answer on the project?
Isn't the Firestone building, isn't that the Sour Patch or whatever?
There were two Firestone buildings. The one that is Sour Note was their car tire center. And what is lesser known is this building, which was their truck tire center.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm familiar with these buildings, the picture you provided. That's where they did a lot of the industrial, big trucks went in the mill and service trucks and stuff like
That's
that.
exactly it.
Just speaking for myself, I think the city and the commission certainly wants to see development in that neighborhood, but I'm going to be honest, I'm confused how a service auto repair shop is conducive to 18th Street and the Sour Note.
Oh,
Just, you know, that's just me. But, and then we went from a 2014 approval for an office building, again, back to an auto repair shop. I'm just, you know, speaking my mind out loud here, so as I read the proposal. I mean,
and if you like, I can address each of those. The 2014 approval was never for an office building. It was always the intention that our office would remain in the Calumet National Bank building. That facility was used as a contractor's repair facility while Engineered Companies was in operation and continues because we're not fully finished with the wind down. The real concern with the 2014 change was outside storage in the half-acre lot. We took it from a facility that was really in bad shape when Firestone had it. And what they did in the vacant lot was pretty ugly, pretty messy. So bad that the building next door couldn't even get in to maintain their building. Further, what they did with storage of tires on the back side of the building, that which faces the First Baptist Church, was also pretty ugly. I can remember having discussions with Don Novak and him expressing the concern about that, and we made the commitment to him that we would never do that kind of storage out there. Now, a vintage car service, so that addresses the office was never part of the original plan in that building in 2014. Now, as far as a vintage car service center and compatibility with the breweries, this isn't going to be a messy, ugly service center. We're talking about vintage cars, and we're talking about the kind of cars that people expect to be taken care of in a very, very nice facility. It's not unusual, put it this way, one of the nicer facilities that I keep in the back of my mind is in downtown Highland Park, Illinois. And what I have in mind is going to be a very nice, clean, good-looking, attractive facility that is meant to draw the public. One of the things that I want, well, put it this way, I had the opportunity to sell the building and turn down the offer. I also had the opportunity to lease the building. The opportunity to sell the building was to another contractor who would use it as a contractor's yard. The opportunity to lease the building was to be used for warehousing. I'm so committed to this facility, to that neighborhood, and trying to develop some sort of activity. I believe that a Thursday night car show, an ad hoc car show, can bring a lot of activity that's highly compatible with Sour Note and 18th Street. Yeah. Because it'll bring people, these are hobbyists, right, with a high level of expendable income. But it's also something that I expect to be accessible to people regardless of income. There's no doubt that the people who have the vintage cars will have the money to support them, but something like a car show will draw anybody. And if we can establish some custom, so to speak, of Thursday night car shows where people just are welcome, I can just see throwing open the gates to that parking area across the street, having a number of people, maybe having cruises, and generating more traffic for places like Sour Note and 18th Street.
So a Thursday night car show would be, you're talking about an outside event?
I don't know.
Kind of like something, well, I'm gonna name our neighboring, like, kind of like, something like what Whiting does every now and then.
Maybe, if this
And-
is,
And it makes it very pleasant in the
Yes,
summer and all that.
absolutely.
for Folks to get together, to talk, to kind of, you know, go to the different shops and everything. For the vintage car owners to show their cars and sell and trade information and, okay.
if this were highly successful, I could work, even if it's not highly successful, just to kick it off, I can see working closely with the Downtown Hammond Council so that this becomes a draw on whatever night makes sense. I'm not married to the idea of Thursday night, but there's already a certain amount of activity that is beginning to develop critical mass on Thursday night in downtown Hammond.
Because what goes in my head is that the vintage car situation, well, collecting, is an up and coming thing. I see more and more of it.
Well, as a person who owns two of them, I sometimes scratch my head and think I'm nuts and wonder if anybody else does this, so thanks.
It's becoming a real trend to collect cars and to kind of show them to, you know, to each other.
Yeah, there's no
I got a
doubt.
2001 Chevy pickup, almost vintage.
There you go.
Yeah, I think a lot of people enjoy looking at vintage cars. I'm a car enthusiast, so anytime I get a chance. You know, Scapel has a big show over the summer. It draws probably a couple thousand people.
One of the first things that I hope to do is in these large display windows is put a car in each. So that somebody just driving by is going to be drawn by, just by the show of a car, that, as well as being able to rotate them out.
I think you'll have to market and advertise it, because it's a little hidden there.
I
So
don't think
once you
so.
do bring
Word
some
of
type
mouth.
of show, or, you know, whether it's even once a month or every quarter, or whatever, you know, obviously you won't do it in the wintertime, but I think you will get the car enthusiasts, people to come out for something like
And
that.
it brings business to town.
So may I ask what type of vehicles you plan to just put in a window?
Well, I'll put my own personal vehicles in there.
That's what I'm trying to figure out. What do you?
One's a 1952
What-
Dodge Coronet and the other is a 1980 MGB,
Okay.
both in original, fully in original condition.
Okay.
But I also have access to a few more.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
And I think rotating them so people drive by and say ooh and ah is going to be more important than keeping mine static in those windows.
Thank you, Mr. Ferrantella.
Thank you.
Next, you'll hear from the Assistant City Planner, Lakeisha Gerger.
Good evening, members of the board. I just want to point out a few things based on the staff report that you were given. The Redevelopment Commission did make a prior determination in 2014 for the current petitioner for a project that was for office space and a contractor's facility for engineered companies. And the HRC did determine that the office component was in compliance with the urban renewal plan, and that the contractor's yard was generally in compliance with the plan. And the prior use that was proposed by the petitioner was because there was the prior use was deemed to be legal non-conforming, and the person came in within 1 year of their time frame of the status of their legal non-conforming status expiring, and so that's why that prior use was extended. At this point, the current proposed use to have a facility for automobiles and automobile repairs, that will require a variance of use from the Board of Zoning Appeals, because currently the property is on C3 and auto repairs are are permitted in the C4. And so the petitioner, based on that information, would need to obtain the necessary approvals from BZA and the city council because variance of uses have to appear before the council. And if you have any more questions, I can answer them at this time.
So we need to approve this before it goes to zoning and the council?
At this point, you would have to make a determination on whether or not it conforms to the urban renewal plan, yes.
Some of the verbiage here, I think, is interesting, to say the least. It may not necessarily be out of place for the area. Well, as you just mentioned, it will require variance and potentially other variances depending on details. And staff recommends that the Redevelopment Commission may make a determination, should it chooses, that the proposed is generally in compliance with the plan. I think it's a lot of verbiage there without actually making a statement what staff recommends.
Like I said, at this time, the urban renewal plan does allow for some type of light industrial uses to be permitted in the area, but staff can only say what has been there prior, and we defer to the board in order to make that decision.
I'm done.
I want to do this, so how do we word this? I'm just trying to figure out how we're going to word this, because I'm definitely, I like this. Yeah, see, the verbiage is a little vague, but I guess I'll say, Mr. President, I make a motion to recommend the staff recommendation that the Redevelopment Commission make a determination that it is generally in compliance with the plan and is allowed provided that it's compatible with the overall character of the district, subject to obtaining the necessary approvals from the Board of Zoning Appeals and the City Council.
Second.
That's perfect, okay. And we have a motion and a second then on the floor. Is there any further questions or discussion? Okay, roll call then, please.
Merrick?
Yes.
Soto Presley?
Yes.
Hesperkey?
Yes.
Myrick?
Yes.
Poppridge?
Yes, motion passes, 5 yes. Happy detailing.
Thank you.
If you get there, I guess, but.
He's gonna get there. This is gonna happen.
All righty, number 7's approval of the City Hammond proposed downtown Station West Lake Corridor. NEPA, which stands for National Environmental Policy Act, reevaluation, supplement number 1 with HDR.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, staff, and our venerable attorney. I'm here today to talk to you about the proposal in front of you. This is a supplemental request from HDR, supported by the city and the engineering department, to take the project that you had previously approved to another level. During the course of the review of the changes requested by the city of Hammond to contemplate a new downtown Hammond station, we hired HDR to look at what needed to be done to make that happen as part of the Westlake Corridor plan. They coordinated with NICD, us, and Federal Transit Administration, and have determined during the course of those meetings that FTA would like us to review the cumulative effects of what the downtown Hammond station would be, which was not originally considered in the scope of the original request. And so this supplemental request is in the amount of $14,134 to review and report to us and the FTA the cumulative effects of the downtown Hammond station. Mr. Mark Furman from HDR is in the audience. So if I have missed something or I can't answer a question of yours, he's here to help me out on that. And at this point, I would take any questions from the commissioners.
None here. Believe it or not.
I don't believe it. I don't have any either.
Mr. President, I make a motion for the approval of the City of Hammond proposed Downtown Station Westlake Corridor NEPA reevaluation supplement number 1 with HDR.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Let's have a roll call then, please.
Merrick,
Yes.
Soto Presley,
Yes.
Hasbricki,
Yes.
Myrick,
Yes.
Hopperidge.
Yes, motion passes, 5 yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, number 8's reports. Ms. Africa Tarver, would you like to share anything?
No report at this time.
Okay. Brings us to number 9, our bills register of claims.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to pay the Register of Claims for January 2nd, 2020 through January 17th, 2020. For Register of Claims R58307 through R58375.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the Register of Claims. It's dating January 2nd, 2020 through January 17th, 2020. That's claims R58307 through claim R58375. Is there any questions on these claims for staff? Okay, roll call on the claims.
Merrick,
Yes.
Soto Presley,
Yes.
Hasbricki,
Yes.
Myrick,
Yes.
Hopperidge.
Yes, motion passes, 5 yes. Number 10's new and unfinished business.
None at this time.
Okay, number 11 is public comment. It is open now. You have 3 minutes if anybody would like to come forward and introduce themselves.
Hello, William O'Connor. I've been here a lot before. I've served as corporation counsel twice. I own 5268 Holman, which shares a common wall with the LaSalle Hotel. There's been a condition that's developed through the years, and I've been in touch with Hassey Construction, and your engineers made an inspection recently of the building. I'm a layman, but the wall's been expanding gradually, and I even had a collapse of the northeast corner of my building, and I'm awaiting the report of your engineers and just wanted to bring that to your attention and look forward to resolving it. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connor.
Mr. Bunn, can you come forward and, I know we've spoken about this before because we have some work that's being done on the LaSalle hotels, but can you respond to?
Absolutely, yeah. I didn't know what you'd like me to do. So basically, just to recap where we are at the, let's see, it's the second meeting in January. So I think it was your first meeting in December, this council approved an agreement between Inspect Engineering out of Maryville, Indiana, a structural engineer, and the Redevelopment Commission, as well as Hassey Construction and the Redevelopment Commission, to undertake an inspection of the building faces of the LaSalle Hotel. We have approximately $25,000 from the engineer and about $50,000 not to exceed price for Hassey Construction to assist the engineer in accessing the building to perform an inspection. At the last Redevelopment Commission meeting, I was happy to report that we have made some progress, but nowhere near the progress that we need to make on this project. That we were looking at significant costs in developing the staging or carriage that would access the sides of the building. That we made a determination by reviewing the roof that it was not capable of supporting that equipment. And so we're looking at a crane and a man basket, and that determination was made about 2 weeks ago. Since then, we have had our contractor talk to NIPSCO, and NIPSCO has an active power line along the alleyway between Russell and Munich Court, immediately to the west of the building, that makes it very difficult to access a portion of the building. And we obviously don't want to mobilize the contractor to do a portion of the work and then leave and then come back. And so the contractor's been diligent in working on how we're going to take that power down to those businesses and still provide power while we're out there doing that work. So that, I'm waiting for some cost estimates for that to be done. There are some 9 generators that are going to be needed at this stage to try to make sure we power the businesses that are in that area. I believe Mr. Attorney O'Connor's building may be affected by that, certainly the traffic signal and the street lights. And so we are progressing, but we haven't made a lot of headway yet at this point. We're obviously dependent on what happens with the weather, but we're going to forge ahead and keep you posted on where we are. So if the commission has any questions of where we are today, I'm happy to try to answer those. Does that work for you, Africa?
Yeah, that works fine. Thank you so much for the
Sure.
update.
Yeah, sure.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Public comment is still open if anybody wants to speak. All right, public comment is closed. Number 12.
Mr. President, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Can you all signify by aye?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Meeting is adjourned.